So next week is a week where you can get into trouble with other people. And for some of you, it might be better to avoid confrontations. Welcome back, everybody, to the energy update for week 31. That is for July 30th till August 5th. My name is Jona Bryndis, and this week's energy update is called Truth Boosters. Yes, we are looking at probably the most dynamic week of the year. And when I say dynamic, I'm trying to stay neutral for a reason. Why do we need truth boosters? It seems like it's hard to discern what information is coming in. If church or New Age can't really show you answers to those questions that you have about your energetic sensitivity, about being empathic, about picking up on outer energies, collective energies as I call them, then you might actually feel snippets of information here that can help you in your journey, in your quest to know yourself better. Why do we want to know ourselves better? Because we want to be able to make better choices. And you guys are already trained. You know that in order to make better choices, we first need to be able to command our thoughts, our thinking. And second, we need to be able to command our emotions. And those are complex processes. These principles of self-mastery aren't as easy as they sound, because it really isn't possible to fully command our thoughts. There's a difference between having a thought and thinking. It's basically the difference between you consciously, actively thinking a thought, knowing that it's yours, and picking up on a thought that kind of reflects inside of you, but not necessarily something that you're consciously thinking. So there is something about that. There's something that we need to learn about our thinking that we haven't quite mastered yet. And this week we have been doing the Grace Task Master Marathon. It's very, very interesting going through these different principles, and actually practicing them has shown us quite a few surprising things. And that's what we are going to see in this next week. Yeah, this next week, I don't know if you have felt this already, is coming in with a shift. Did you guys notice the shift in these days? Things are moving forward. They're moving faster. All of a sudden, everything needs to be done at once, or wants to be addressed at once. It feels a bit ADHD, but what it really is now that the activation that we have been going through the last 2 months is complete. Now it wants to go into the power, the strength, and the confidence to actually put this into action. I'm not gonna really talk too much about this as we are transitioning into August right now, and I'm already attuning to August here for the energetic tune-up on Sunday. So Sunday night, most likely I'm going to record the forecast for the whole entire month of August for you, and I don't want it to be too redundant. So I try to keep this short. The most dynamic week of the year, with shocking news and shocking events that will bring about changes that will last. That will bring about changes that can easily trigger us. And I want to remind all of you that regardless of what you are learning here or what you are learning through your own self-guidance about how to think and emote and sense, that getting triggered is not the problem. It is how you handle when you get triggered. And there is a little bit of work, a little bit of homework that needs to be done, because we need to understand what part in us is getting triggered. And I can give you a sneak peek here into next week's collective energies. That's what I do with these energy updates, so that you can maybe more easily reflect or contextualize what is actually going on internally. And I know many of you enjoy watching these energy updates after the fact. Yeah, so they can help you to give you some context so that when you're experiencing things, like say you're experiencing overwhelming thoughts of fear and emotions or physical sensations, and you hear that this is something that is triggered by collective energies, it might help you to know that you're not alone. This isn't because there's something wrong with you, it's because it is the outer weather condition. Yeah, so if you suddenly get cold, it's not because you're getting sick, it's because it actually is cold out there. The problem with our perception is that it's sometimes hard for us to see, and that's why we need truth boosters. But I will come to this here at the end of the energy update. First, I want to clarify what I mean with these shocking and perhaps even explosive events. There are energies at work that are beyond just what we are experiencing in our 3D. And as these energies move, and we know this from self-healing, typically the first thing that occurs is a clearing. And when it comes to collective energies, they move a lot slower than our personal energies, which means, you know, when we watch these collective clearing processes, yeah, we can observe them over years, over decades. And right now we are entering a phase of, you know, if it was a person, I would say you are entering a purge phase. Yeah, a purge. Something needs to be purged. It's like a self-correction. A self-correction, meaning that you are consciously choosing to change that because you know your own aptitude, you know your own pet peeves, you know your own no-goes, you know sort of your track record, you know which of the things are, say, more triggering for you, and this can be very individual. Yeah, but the point of all this talk is that these events of the next week are going to trigger all of us, and they can come up in ways that we feel lonely, that we feel guilty, that we feel like we've missed a train or we didn't use our opportunities, but also in form of resentments and anger and vengeance. It doesn't matter what your aptitude is, yeah, because again, this is individual. Things are gonna get triggered next week. So as you know that, maybe give yourself a little bit of leeway in regards to, you know, your own reactions. You're going to see yourself become maybe abrupt or abrasive with other people. You'll have less patience. You will feel a lot of spastic maybe in your energy, and you're not going to be the only one. So you know how that goes. That can go like a ping pong ball, like a bouncy ball, back and forth between people. So when I say cut yourself some slack, really what I'm saying is know that what is being triggered in you is sort of a raw new energy that isn't mature yet, that isn't refined yet. And for that to happen, you have to think and feel it all the way through. This takes some time, this takes some space. But remember that all other people around you, aware of it or not, are experiencing the same thing. So next week is a week where you can get into trouble with other people. And for some of you, it might be better to avoid confrontations. Those of you who have like a bit more of a feisty side, yeah, you know that people can sometimes feel maybe cut off, or you know that, you know, you have a tendency to maybe check out a lot, or you know that you can get really dramatic about things. And these are all unconscious reactions to triggers. I would suggest that you pay more attention to what it is that you bring out into this world, how you express yourself, and that you focus on if this is actually how you're truly feeling in this moment. We call this congruency. When you don't do that, is that as you are allowing yourself to go into this reactivity, you're beginning to express something in a way that is probably more like the lower vibratory version of your repertoire. Yeah, in other words, you know, you may not be happy about your own words or expressions or things that you do if you are not aware of what it is that you put out there. So make sure that if you are being pulled into something like a debate or a controversy or somebody telling you something that triggers something in you. I mean, right now it doesn't matter which subject I name, they all have sort of intense triggers with them, whether it's money or environment or food or gas or the whole economic situation, the macroeconomics, supply chains, politics, health, education. There is not a single, and I've left out many of them, there are many, many more, there is not a single public subject left right now that is not controversial. Yeah? And so you need to understand that whatever the information is that is coming in is also reflecting that inner turmoil that is in our societies right now, which means that the information that is coming into our media world here is controversial. You cannot assume just because it comes from this particular outlet or from this government agency and so forth that it is the truth. These times are over, guys. We are living in a time where information has been weaponized and truth has been hijacked. And so if you want to inoculate yourself from mind control and coercion and persuasion and information that is literally driving you to the wrong exit, then you need to start making it a habit to think things through, to feel things through yourself. Even your own long-held beliefs, your opinions. Say them out loud in front of yourself. Hear yourself saying them. And then ask yourself, is this really how I feel about this? Maybe you see two sides of the story, which is a great step into neutrality, where you say, my initial reaction to this or my initial thought about this is blah, 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 blah. But upon further investigation or deeper contemplation, I actually feel that, there's not enough information for me to make a informed decision or form, an opinion. Yeah, there's not enough support for that yet, or there's not enough research, depending on what sort of your pet peeve is. But don't, just because you have heard yourself say or think it for a long time, buy into it right away. The overall task here for us is to become the master of our own expressions, and then ultimately, that's the quest, to fully feel the power to change our reality from within ourselves. If we're just following other people's opinions or the opinions of organizations or corporations or political parties or spiritual groups or churches or whatever, we can easily be pulled into deception. We can easily be coerced to be doing something that we actually don't want, that is actually not congruent with what we truly want. And the problem with that is that the more we are hooked onto our ego, what brings pleasure and what avoids pain, the less we are able to realize when it happens. And the connection here can be learned in psychology, is that when we are detecting an inner conflict, an inner incongruency, it forms a certain neurological pattern in us. It's called cognitive dissonance. And that is perceived as one of the most uncomfortable feelings inside of us, because it is something where we are like, it's this nagging voice. You guys know what I mean? Yeah, it's that little voice that keeps talking to you in a degrading or questioning way. And when you experience that, your chances of getting coerced into something, your chances of getting mind controlled, your chances of not thinking for yourself are very, very high, because your ego's interest is to defend whatever it is that it previously invested in. You know, whatever your opinion or your statement was that you are now trying to defend, you're trying to make it so, you're trying to make it right. And that's the danger here of this next week, not just for us individually, but collectively. So you can imagine, if you think about politics, if you think about ongoing wars, if you think about certain economical dynamics and collaborations between countries and so forth, that can lead to quite, let's say, eruptive and disruptive confrontations. Yeah, and that's what we need to inoculate ourselves from, because if we get pulled into something like that, and it can also be in our families, in our business, with our children, with our partners, all right, next week has this destructive undertone. So what we need to do to inoculate ourselves is to first and foremost consciously decide that we do not want to give up our free will, our ability to freely think, to freely feel, and to freely choose what it is that we believe in. Okay? The second thing is that we need to understand that is not just like a First Amendment or something like that. It is something that comes with the fact that we actually have a consciousness, that we are connected with something greater, that there actually is something like a lower and a higher expression of us. And once you realize that means that there's almost like parallel realities going on, simultaneous realities, one in which you can play out or can follow the concept of your lower self, which would be the ego and the pre-programmed and conditioned ways of responding to the world, seeing other people and yourself in it, or the higher self, the higher version of yourself, the higher vibratory approach and perspective. And once you realize what this truly means, you can see that you have a lot more choices than you thought you had. And one of the ways we guys all know this from narcissistic manipulation, to make us believe, to make us, to convince us, to make us convince ourselves, is to limit our options. Limiting our options leads to us believing that, there's only black and white, there's only yes or no, right or wrong. And once you fall into that trap, your ego is on high alert, because your ego doesn't want to make mistakes. Your ego believes that the more the better, the harder the better. There's a performance aspect to it. Your ego thinks that, in order to be successful, you need to have the approval, the validation from the outside. All these psychological things that come into this. And all of that has an effect on your energy. And that is the biggest problem from the perspective of an energy healer, because you can have any opinion you want. I don't care what your opinion is. I only care how you got there. Because how you got there determines your energetic alignment that goes with it. And how your alignment is determines how you're going to think, how you're going to feel, and how you're going to choose. And lastly, obviously, how you're going to act, how you're going to express yourself in this world. So the more conscious you can become about your expression, the more you can discern and internalize your own thinking, your own emoting, your own choosing and deciding, the more options you will have, the more opportunities you will see. So amidst all these challenging changes that are going on out there, whether or not you feel like you're going to have a lot of options, you can stay calm, you don't need to worry about things, doesn't depend on how much money you have or how well you prepped or anything, how much you know. No. It depends on how congruent you are. How you set up your life. If what it is that you are bringing into this world is what it is that you want to bring into this world. And if you cannot answer that, that means you don't know yourself yet. And if you don't know yourself, if you don't know what you're standing for, you're pretty much going to fall for anything. And I know this is kind of like hard to hear, because our ego doesn't like that statement, but it is truth. If you don't know what your truth is, anybody can sell you truth. So, know thyself, strengthen truth in you, instead of falling for your fear clouds, your fear traps, or your anger traps. Trust, or learn to trust in your inner guidance, and learn how to discern them. That's consciousness training, guys, and that's what we all need right now. Good news is, August is going to be a very high vibratory month. But the problem with speeding up energies is that it also speeds up the not so good things, because they have to be purged first, right? So whenever we get pulled or triggered into our lower expressions, guess what? Our shadow aspects coming forward, our inner child stuff, all the unresolved stuff. And that doesn't always go that well, all right? So my tip for you is stay on task, stay on your toes, understand that other people feel the same way. So kind of mend or mind your own business. Keep your side of the fence clean. Yeah? And know who you are. You don't always have to have answers. In order to motivate yourself to break through something, you just need to know your alignment. Yeah? It's a higher form of intention. Ego is based on drive, and drive is a pre-programmed, conditioned form of intention. Yeah, so work with this the next week. I hope you find this information useful. For more information or more in-depth videos, go to my website, transCODES.com. If you want to have an energetic tune-up, that is basically a realignment for your energy for August, with a personal reading and an in-depth evaluation, basically, of the opportunities and challenges that are coming your way in the next 4 to 6 weeks, then also go to my website. I hope that you could maybe get some snippets from this energy update that help you to better contextualize and internalize your true power. Okay. See you guys soon for the forecast for August. Wishing you a wonderful weekend. Bye bye.